Morgan and Robert from Ancient Infant joining me for an episode of On That Note. Guys, thank you for coming on. I appreciate y'all being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, dude.
I'm excited to talk about the new EP about to break, but before we get to that, can we talk about why you picked my personal favorite album of all time to display here? And if you're listening, you can watch on YouTube, see our beautiful faces. This beautiful album cover here, my personal favorite, Radiohead, In Rainbows. What made you pick this one?
I think this album, kind of after they started to transition into their electronic stuff, this one kind of goes back to being a guitar record. And it's just got some bangers on it. I mean, Body Snatchers is like probably my top Radiohead song. It's just like a bunch of surrealism in there. It's dark, it's gritty.
Yeah, dude, is that the second one, right? After 15 Step?
Yeah.
That's crazy that you guys were saying you cover that sometimes.
Yeah, that's one of our favorites to play. It's just that riff, man.
It's insane. I remember the first time hearing that. I mean, this whole album, it's like after Body Snatchers, it takes a completely different turn. Mm-hmm. And I always liked the first two, and then the rest was like, oh, I'll get through it. And now I almost feel the opposite.
I mean, Weird Fishes, that song is so ethereal and strange.
Yeah, there's not a bad song on it. Somebody asked me, I did a podcast called Bands, Beers, and Buzzwords. And it was basically like a drinking game talking about your favorite album. And I picked this one, and one of the questions was, what song, like if you had to pick one, would you cut? And that was like one of the hardest questions I've ever had to answer.
Oof.
What would you say?
Man, I'd probably have to go with, I mean, I like Jigsaw, but I might have to cut that one.
It's hard. That's a really hard one for me. Jigsaw is amazing, so I don't think I would do that. I said Reckoner, but I think I might take that back. I would probably pick Faust Arp over that now.
Yeah.
But it's an impossible choice.
I do also like what this album represents in the change in the music industry. You know, it was one of the first albums to be put out on the internet for free or pay what you will.
Yeah.
And it was just like the beginning of a new era. And a lot of people kind of regret what happened to album sales, but I think it's that like destructive technology that changes things and keeps things moving forward. And like now we do live in a streaming world.
Right.
And this kind of created that cataclysm.
Yeah, it's funny now. Now it doesn't seem like a big deal. Like people kind of forget about that aspect of the album, which I think kind of shows that the album itself is incredible without the story. And then people do remember the story, and they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, that was such a huge deal. People hated that."
Yeah.
Well, record execs.
I mean, I wonder if Radiohead looks back at it and like, we didn't mean to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
we didn't mean to
like
change the game that way.
Bound to happen at some point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
someone
cool
was
that they
gonna
were the
do it.
ones to do it.
Yeah.
Especially since there's not a lot of music, if any, that's coming out these days that sounds like that. You know?
Right. Yeah, I always think it's funny when you hear stories like that and you think people are getting so upset about this stuff. But it's like, if this band doesn't do it or if this artist doesn't do it, somebody probably will come along and do it in a different way. So let's have the conversation now, I guess. But also it's like how much can you really fight something like that? It's like the horse and buggy union getting pissed about cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Hold the rest of the world back because your one industry is like in jeopardy? It's like you can't necessarily do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also interesting that like our generation is I was having a conversation with my father, and he was like, yeah, I like to own a physical copy of something. Mm-hmm. And I agree to an extent, but not with every album or every movie, you know.
Right.
We're the first generation that we don't really care to own the physical copy. We've got access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With vinyls are the one exception where you really love an album, you go buy the vinyl.
Yeah, I've been getting back into CDs lately too.
Yeah.
Because it's like I can support the band or the artist and listen to it in my car but I'm not paying like $25 either. Mm-hmm. Like at least I can do 10 or 12 or whatever it is, but sometimes, yeah, it is like it's got to be a pretty important album for me to want to buy it on vinyl.
Yeah.
I do keep a shoebox of CDs in my car just
Nice.
for when,
You never know, dude.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi goes out, or like you can't use your phone. You're like, all right, one of my 6 CDs from my high school days.
Yeah. I mean,
It's breaking out.
I keep that Libertine self-titled album just on repeat. It just lives in my CD player.
Yeah, dude, it's funny how many CDs I have in my car, and I still have like the same CD that's been in the disc changer forever.
Yeah. Every car should have that one CD that just kind of by default is.
Yeah, I think my Deer Hunter album has been in there for like 3 years without move at all. But let's get to the EP, guys. Well, actually, first of all, tonight is also a very important night. You guys are playing the 40 Watt.
It
Yep,
is.
we're
How
stoked.
are you feeling this morning, the day of? Not just playing, by the way, headlining.
Well, besides the fact that I'm having like an horrible allergies right now, I'm fucking stoked. I'm super excited. I'm just trying to like kick this shit so I can go on 100%. I don't know. It's I remember the last time we played, and I was so excited, and it gets even more and more exciting the more you play, which is weird because it's not the biggest venue ever, but it just means so much to the town.
Yeah.
And it means so much to the people that get to play there, that they get to share the stage with each other, with great people. I don't know. I'm very excited about it, though.
It's very historic.
I don't know
Oh,
if it's
I
quite
love the
sunk
40
in
watt.
for me yet.
Yeah, it probably won't until you're like loading in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even not then.
40 Watt's my favorite club in town. It's a gritty rock and roll club,
What's been your favorite show you've seen there?
Oh, the Melvins, hands down.
Oh, that was like a few months ago, right?
Yeah.
I heard that was awesome.
I got knocked pretty good in the pit. I got an elbow right to the nose, just pouring blood, but
Oh my god.
it was great. It was so good.
It
so
was
so
awesome.
heavy.
I was bleeding everywhere. It was gnarly. I loved it.
If it's gonna be for any show,
Yeah.
it might as well be the Melvins.
I mean, those guys just shred.
And isn't one of their dudes? What's his name? The guy who was also in Nirvana,
Now, Buzz was
or maybe I'm thinking of
the guy with the really big hair. He was kind of Kurt Cobain's like not mentor, but like Kurt Cobain was a teenager hanging around the Melvins,
I gotcha.
and he was like, "Oh, you can make music this heavy, and you can play on a stage behind a grocery store, and just."
right.
So the Melvins were really important to the Nirvana story.
I gotcha.
Same town,
Oh, that's cool. Where is it? Somewhere. It's not Seattle, is it? Or-
Aberdeen, Washington, I believe.
that's right.
Yeah.
I've been reading Mark Lanigan's biography. Do you know him? Mm-mm. You would like him. He was like close friends with Kurt Cobain, which I didn't know until I started reading it. But he's his own guy, but he was also in a band called Screaming Trees.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with them.
So he's the singer.
Cool.
And he has his solo stuff, Mark Lanigan, and I first heard about him because he did a song with Queens of the Stone Age. Not No One Knows, but it's on that album, Songs for the Deaf. It's the title track, Song for the Deaf, I think, or a Song for the Dead. I don't know. But yeah, he's awesome, and he was close friends with Kurt Cobain, so it's an interesting read. He like talks about like his time with him, and yeah, it's very, very wild. Such a weird time to think about back then in the 90s, like how different things were for bands and,
Totally.
and artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, bands were still getting record deals.
Yeah, like that was such a huge thing, and now you don't necessarily even need one to get your music heard. It's a strange
That's
landscape.
true. You just got to understand like social media these days. And people are blowing up from one little TikTok video. And then all of a sudden everybody's going to stream their songs. But I think what's interesting is sometimes you go see a band that is kind of doing the social media thing, or they've got a song that people really like, and nobody's listening to the rest of their stuff sometimes. You know what I mean? You could see that one song that blew up, and then the rest of their music, people are like, all right, well,
Yeah.
I don't really care for it. And nobody's doing the whole like deep dive into people's discography unless they're really, really into the band.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You see that whole thing with Steve Lacy last year?
Mm-mm.
Do you know Steve Lacy?
No.
Oh, shit. Well, never mind. He had one song that blew up on TikTok, but he's been around like a while. Like I've known about him for a minute, and his album came out last year. It was one of my favorites of the year. And then I realized later that I guess one of those songs like just totally blew up on TikTok. And then at his shows, it was a lot of fans of just that one song, even though he's been around a while and a lot of people know other songs. But he would play the hit, and then he like stopped singing one of the verses to like let everybody sing it, and nobody knew a single word. Like they knew the chorus, but they didn't know the word to.
You know what? I think somebody else was telling me about this.
Yeah, it was like a huge thing because he would like start trolling the audience. Dude, I gotta send you a couple videos.
Yeah, send them our way. I mean, that is the frustrating part of like the ADD thing that's happening with TikTok, is it is kind of like surface level listening. You know, when I love a band, I'm like, I go back to their first. If I hear one thing I like that catches my ear, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go back to their first record and see how this band developed.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know?
Do you prefer to start chronologically?
Yeah, I do like chronological because I like to see how the band grew, how they came into their sound.
Yeah.
And I do feel like most bands, their first record is kind of a really true raw representation of who they are as a band. Mm-hmm. And they're always just a little grittier, a little more raw.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that progression. I feel like I have to start with whatever is the most popular just to give myself the most possible opportunity to get into it. Mm-hmm. And then if that doesn't fit, then I might try the first one. If that doesn't work, I'm like, well, let me try a weird one that nobody likes. Maybe that's the one I like.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I try to hop around. Like last night, I finally something hit, and I started getting into Beck. Like I've wanted to get into Beck for so long, and I like whatever the hits are, right? But finally, I was like, let me just try Ode Delay again, and it hit for whatever reason. Does that ever happen to you guys, where you come back to something years later and now you get it?
It happens. It does happen a lot, and I think part of it is just because of my progression as a musician. I used to be so anti certain genres. Oh, I don't like that.
Right.
And a lot of it, weirdly, was because of other people liking it. Mm-hmm. I used to be so anti go with the flow because I wanted to be so different. And I used to shut myself off from a lot of really cool stuff. And then I would go listen to it and be like, well, there's probably a reason that people like this, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of give it fresh ears. And it happens a lot more now than it used to.
It's a great feeling when it clicks.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get into the Doors, which
the
Doors are a great band, but for a long time I don't know why I wrote them off, but and Metallica is another one. I didn't get into Metallica till I was like 24.
Yeah.
Most kids like that play guitar start with that record,
Right.
with Metallica, right? They like Ride the Lightning and stuff. That's classic stuff, but
I've still kind of not been on the Metallica train, but that's more of just like the kind of music I listen to. I'll go and check out a Metallica album every once in a while just to like see if anything's changed for me. And I think it's cool, but it's just never like that thrash metal stuff is never really in my wheelhouse in general.
Love the thrash stuff.
Yeah. I love the really big song. So cheesy to say this, but whatever. What is it? Sleep with one eye open.
Oh, Enter Sandman.
Yes, Enter Sandman. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, it's because I teach it on guitar all the time.
You teach lessons?
Yeah. I'll teach guitar, bass, and drums. And on guitar, it's always Smoke on the Water. That one. That Metallica song.
Sounds right.
Sunshine of Your Love. Those are like the big three. I feel like I'm missing
Our
one.
other guitar player was he was saying that he still can't get Smoke on the Water down, so maybe you could give him a lesson.
I'll hit up Alan. I'll be like, yo, I've heard
hit
you.
up
I've
Alan.
heard you're struggling.
Yeah.
I texted the band the other day. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to Guitar Center. Anybody need anything?" And Alan's like, "If you find the sheet music for Smoke on the Water,
Please." I've been looking everywhere.
I was like, "Hey, man, the Guitar Center employee told me that they reserve all those copies for 12-year-old kids."
Like, we can't get it for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, your cutoff is
Look up a TikTok. Well, man, let's talk about the EP. I really want to know about the writing and the recording process. It is your debut EP, so there's a little extra specialness to it. What was the writing and the recording process for it? What was like the daily routine for working on this?
So a lot of those songs have been bouncing around for a while. For example, Miss CEO, I started that one 8 years ago. I was at like a music conference for people who put on festivals, film festivals, music festivals.
Yeah.
I was 20, 21, and I was hanging out with all these kind of wealthy, successful people that were decades older than I was, and I was like kind of felt out of place, Mm-hmm. Here I am in my ripped jeans at this, everyone's wearing suits and ties, and I just kind of, that song came about in like an anti-establishment kind of sentiment of, oh, I feel out of place. Like the chorus of that is, hey, Miss CEO, rub my elbow, mm-hmm. Rubbing elbows with these folks that I just wasn't like mature enough at that point in my life to really make the most of that thing. So there's a lot of anti-establishment, kind of anti-consumerism lyrics in that song, which I still stand by a lot of that anti-consumerism sentiment. That's kind of what that song is about. So it took us honing that song out and like really bringing the energy, because I've had it bouncing around for years, and it was just started on an acoustic guitar, but then once we got the band in on it, turned into a kind of our favorite punk banger to play. We close all our sets with that one.
Nice. That is it's funny how you can write a song 8 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And did it ever feel like stale and you had to kind of revitalize it, or was it always?
Yeah, I've revitalized it several times over the years, and then once we got the energy of the full band behind it, it just totally took on a new life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta pull those old ones out and like, oh yeah, I wrote that years ago and kind of forgot about it, but I think there's something there, just haven't found that magic element yet.
Right. Dust it off a little bit. Give it some new life.
So that one is kind of the leading single that we put out. Too Far Gone is another one we're really proud of, really stoked on. It's kind of it's a nostalgic song about being a broke kid, bombing hills on a skateboard, breaking bones, staying up too late, partying,
just very youthful.
Yeah, like all those young dumb things you do that you wouldn't necessarily go take back.
Right.
It's like everyone has that chapter of their life where they're like, well, I don't know about everyone, but where you're a little reckless for a couple years, and you don't
doing dumb shit.
Yeah, you don't know your limits. You don't want to believe you have any limits. You feel invincible. Like none of your actions really have consequences because you like just moved out of your folks' place or whatever, and you're just testing the limits a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that one's about. It's definitely a nostalgic tune.
Do you have a song that gave you the most trouble recording or writing?
I mean, out of the four of them, I don't know if it's trouble per se, but Too Far Gone was definitely one of the most involved, if not the most involved from every member.
Gotcha.
And when we were kind of writing it, it was it was just an acoustic guitar song, you know what I mean? And I remember Morgan like presenting it to us like, yo, I did it. I did another good song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, cool, play it. And so I just immediately, I was picking up like, I was picking up the vibe that he was trying to give, but I didn't know how to translate that into the music exactly that I wanted to play. And it kind of took a while of us just playing it over and over and over again and just writing more and figuring out where we each wanted to land. Whereas the rest of them, they're a little bit more straight ahead, or straightforward in terms of, what I'm doing with the drum groove, or, well, I don't want to necessarily speak for the guitar parts because they're probably a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it is interesting how some songs that we bring to the table, it's more of like a riff-based song, right? We've got this riff and we just jam on it and explore it, and the instrumentation kind of just falls into place naturally. Whereas when we have a song that's more of like, here's a structured acoustic tune, let's turn it into a full-fledged band, and they just develop differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes we explore the riff together, see where it wants to go. Other times, like, I'll present a song that it's like, hey, here's verse, chorus, bridge. Like, let's figure out how to turn this, electrify it a little bit,
Yeah. Do you prefer one or the other?
No, I think different songs call for different things.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the hook is in the lyrics and a good chorus, and sometimes the hook is in a guitar riff or a drum fill, So it's just kind of asking the song what it calls for.
Yeah.
And not overplaying, not trying to force anything in there. You just naturally, the song kind of will tell you where it wants to go.
Right. It's its own
really true.
life form in a way. Not to get too spiritual about it, but it does feel
We can go there.
Oh, I'm all about it. It does feel like it comes from another place almost. The best feeling to me is when it's finally done and you're like, I can't believe I wrote that shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even feel like yours yet. It's like the same night you wrote it or whatever, like the week.
Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then other times you're beating your head against the wall trying to get a song out.
Right.
But that Too Far Gone was one of those, and Checkmate was as well, that I think I wrote both of those in the morning, which a lot of my writing I do late at night. But those ones I was just drinking my coffee and pick up an acoustic guitar, and 30 minutes later it's like, boom, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Which is always nice, because a lot of other songs you kind of have to, some songs take months, I feel like.
Right.
But when you get that one where you're like, wow, this is like, that was an
Happens in
hour,
like
and
20,
it's just
20 minutes or something.
Or
sick.
years.
Yeah. I don't know which one is a better feeling, honestly, because I love just being like done with it super quick.
Yeah.
But it is gratifying when you bring a song back from like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, oh, there's the missing piece.
Yeah, we've got one called Wrath that we haven't put it out yet, but it's a riff that I've been working on for a long time and rewritten the song like 3 times. Changed the lyrics, changed the tempo, changed the whole vibe. Just scrap it and start over. But I knew the one riff was good. And so when we finally nailed it down, it's like, oh, hell yeah. Like, been chasing this one for a long time.
Right. When you were recording, what were some of the standout moments, like highlights for you guys that you really just look back, in like 10 years, you'll look back at these recording sessions and remember this 1 or 2 things?
My personal favorite is, so we recorded with Jeff Vernon.
Shout out Jeff Vernon, our boy.
Shout out.
And there was what was it? It was either Miss CEO or Checkmate. Was it Miss CEO maybe? And I was a little all over the place on the drums, and he goes, Rob, I need you to be a robot, man. Like, just fucking do it, okay? And I'm sitting there, I'm getting like pissed off at myself, and I was like, all right, fine.
He was getting frustrated.
I was getting frustrated. Jeff was probably getting frustrated. Everybody was probably getting a little frustrated.
Yeah.
And I don't know, in kind of like a nice, rude way, Jeff was just like, no, do that shit, bro. Like, what are you doing? I know you could do it. Like, stop fucking up.
Like a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then like the next take, it was just like, that was it. It was boom.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Whoa.
Jeff had to go light a little fire under Rob and be
Yeah.
like, hey, like we've played this so many times. Let's just get it done with you.
Get it right. That's so funny.
it was awesome.
You
I was
need
like,
that.
all right, cool.
Yeah.
You need that that push every once in a while, especially with music. It's easy and some, I think preferable at least to take that lighter touch approach. As as artists, sometimes you want to be delicate. Then every once in a while, you just need somebody to be like, dude, stop fucking around. Let's get the take.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about those sessions was we recorded over at Chase Park, and that
cool.
that studio is just sick.
I still need to go check it
awesome.
out.
Oh, it's great. But they had, they've got some great gear in there, and I did all my guitar tracks on an old Ampeg Gemini.
Oh.
One of the old '60s Ampegs.
Yeah.
And I just really fell in love with those amps, and the tone on them is just sweet. They break up really well. It's just a sick crunch on them. And then 2 months later, one of those just fell into my lap. I just found one for dirt cheap. Just one of these amps that I had fallen in love with, and now it's my go-to amp.
Where did you find it?
At a little music shop over in Sewanee. Town Center Music.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was great amps though.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was my first experience in just a really elaborate studio that has decades of history. They've done Bright Eyes Records over there. I think Josh Homme has done some work over there.
I know I think they recorded the Merriweather Post Pavilion by Animal Collective.
I think so, yeah.
Either they recorded it or mixed it, one of the two.
Yeah, there's just a lot of history in that room, and every previous recording experience I've had has kind of been like home studios, and so to be in a room with that much access to just sick gear was just really fun.
Yeah.
It's like I could have spent a whole day just
Right.
trying out different tones in there.
Was that stifling at all? Having too many options?
No, it's kind of one of those things where we know we're paying by the hour, so it's like, let's get in here and make decisions.
Yeah. Not
know,
a lot of time to be messing around.
I love that Dave Grohl has talked about how back in the day when you had to record to tape, it forces you to make decisions, right?
Right.
You're like, you've got a few takes to get the song, and then you choose the best one and you move on. Now with digital DAW systems, you can endlessly change it, and it can get so far away from the original genesis of the idea. So it, in the studio, I kind of like to approach it of hey, let's go in, let's play several takes, let's choose the one with the most attitude, not necessarily even the most technically proficient one. Let's choose the one that has the attitude, that really gets the point of the song across, and let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Let's make a decision and move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great call. I was going to ask, what lessons do you feel like you learned during this process that you would take with you into the next one? I don't know if you would say that, but that is a great answer. Just picking the one that makes the most sense and not thinking too much about it, just moving on.
Yeah, that's why I don't record myself, because then I do sit there forever.
Yeah.
It's nice to have an engineer in there that's just moving the process along. If I'm doing it in my bedroom, I will spend hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and it makes sense, especially if you're recording demos. It's okay to have that mentality, because you might as well try to bang out any ideas you can right then and there before you start paying for the hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing we've learned is just all those little moments in the song, just little tiny transitions or things that you kind of gloss over live. Just hammering all those small details out before you get in the studio, so you don't waste an hour where everyone's not on the same page on something,
Right. Yeah, that's precious time that could be used actually getting a new take.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also like when we're in the rehearsal space and we're going at it and trying to work out those details, we allow ourselves to see where the song can go and see where it can, as opposed to being in there and then wishing after the whole tracking is done, oh man, I wish I had done something a little bit different right there. You know what I mean? Where like it's got to be that balance between making the decisions, but also allowing yourself to have fleshed out the song as much as you feel like it needs to before you do have to make those final decisions in the studio.
Yeah, it is a weird balancing act.
Mm-hmm. I think we do it really well, honestly, because we get into the practice room and it's just always super. Man, what's the word I'm looking for? It's intentional. Yes.
We're like on the same wavelength there. That's funny.
we do get really intentional with what we do, and I think that's something that's really good.
Yeah, and it's okay to not be so intentional in that creative process, the very birth of it, I guess. But then, when you go into the studio and you got to start making decisions, it's almost like you got to follow your intuition on that and just, be confident that what you want is really what you want. Because
well, I don't think being intentional is necessarily forcing yourself to be super structured. If you want it to be loose, you could just
that's true.
Allow yourself.
Rob also comes from a jam band background, so
there you go. Yeah.
That can be intentional.
Right.
We are just going to listen to each other and see where the song kind of goes right now. You know what I mean? But intentional about listening to each other and not stepping on each other's toes, as opposed to being intentional about this is exactly the structure of what's going on right now.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of bring out that different side of each other when we jam, because I am that structured. I want to know where the song is going, and Rob's always pushing for, let's just jam on it. Let's just see where it goes, Like I kind of do like that structure of it.
Well, not always.
No,
I'm not always pushing that.
I
but
know.
Like if you've got a riff that we're working on, there's going to be some great ideas that come out of just, okay, here's the riff. How do we expand upon this riff? What other chords can we incorporate into, what other feels? I don't know. I think that's how we have a song called Panda in Japan. That's how that kind of came to be. The chorus section and the different bridge sections. Let's jam on it and see what happens. And then things stuck and things sound awesome. You know what I mean?
Right. And doing a jam like that, maybe you end up playing something you don't even remember, and then you listen back to a recording of it, and you're like, oh, wait, that sounds sick. Let's keep doing that. Like, you never would have thought about it unless you gave yourself the space to do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you all have a song you're most proud of?
On this EP or just in general?
Let's do on the EP, and then if there's another one, throw that out there too.
I am really proud of Too Far Gone. I feel like that one it really captures a moment. And it's one of the, we play a lot of heavier music that, Rob beats the shit out of the snare, and I do a lot of yelling, and Asada turns their fuzz pedal on. And but with Too Far Gone, I feel like that's one of those songs where I reminded myself it's okay to sing pretty instead of yelling all the time,
Yeah.
And I feel like it just does capture a mood really well. Like a song should say one thing. And I feel like with that song, it's just a clear, it's clear writing,
Yeah.
I think it also opened doors for how we approach our live sound or the studio or whatever. Because if it weren't for that song, I might not have a mic behind the drums like I do now. It'd be,
that was Rob's first time singing on a track ever.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I come from a little bit of a theater background.
Yeah,
so
gotcha.
I've done some, like I've done singing in front of an audience, but it was mostly because I wasn't that great of an actor. It was mostly just ensemble shit. So being able to have a voice is really cool. You know, like physically, like I do have a voice on the drums, but also like now I feel like I'm exploiting all of my musical creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that song did kind of mark a turning point for us as a band when Rob and Asada both started singing on like half, if not most, of the songs. So now we're doing 3-part vocals, whereas before I was just handling most of the vocals, and it's really expanded our sound a lot, having harmonies on there, having different. We've all got different textures to our voices, so that song kind of marked that turning point.
It's game changing.
Yeah,
getting multiple vocals on there, and I'm always nervous because I don't want to be the guy that goes to the melody when I'm supposed to do the harmony or whatever. Like always fucking that up. But like truly, when you do see a band have multiple vocals or just, you know, like a lead and then a harmony, if you take that harmony away, it's a huge difference. You really notice it.
Yeah.
You might not notice it until it's taken away. Like, but still, like, I don't know. I'm trying to get more into that myself. And I had one more question before we go to the last 5 here. And that's if you had any advice for artists that want to release their first project, what would you give them?
Well, I mean, you know, there's the cliche, like, just fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I understand that it's really hard to get out of your comfort zone. I don't know. I don't portray that I am easily uncomfortable by new experiences. Sometimes I can just put on a face and be like, okay, I have to do this. But I am so uncomfortable by new experiences. Like singing. When I was kind of allowing myself to sing more, be vocal, or writing, or things that I'm not typically doing in a musical context. So I totally respect it. I don't know. I think one of the things that would really help people is finding people to lift them up a little bit. You know what I mean? Let's say whoever's listening doesn't want to release their first project. They're a little, you know, whatever, they're insecure about it. But the more people that they have in their circle that are really, really close and can help build them up, that'll make that a lot easier. It's really hard to do something that you're not sure about if you don't have anybody on your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, for example, like, if it weren't for Morgan Asada Allen being like, yo, you got a good voice, like, do that more often, you know? Or Morgan telling Asada, like, wow, you've got some really great songs, like, do that more often. We wouldn't be where we're at. You know what I mean? If it was just four individuals trying to creatively do something, everybody's got to be pushed together and lift each other up.
Yeah, that's great advice. Find people that you can kind of create a community with, inspire each other and push each other to be better and steer them in the right direction. Be like, hey, what you did there, follow that.
Yeah.
Because that's a great route to go down. What would you say, Morgan?
I would just say make art that you fucking like. Don't make something just to please other people or, you know, jump on a certain trend or something. Just write songs that you like. Songs that are you.
Yeah.
You know, be authentically you. You're not writing to appeal to anybody or like please yourself.
Yeah.
You know? That's how you're going to create authentic art.
And you might end up like copying, quote unquote, taking inspiration from like your favorite artists, and people are like,
yeah,
that sounds a lot like Tame Impala or whatever, and then you're like, oh shit, yeah, it does. But as you keep working on it,
But I like Tame Impala.
Yeah. You build that muscle.
Well, everyone's like pulling from other sources, you know,
Right.
whether that's visual art or music or film. I think you're always pulling those ideas into your music. And you know, we've got a line in one of our songs like nobody's having an original thought, because everything's derivative of something else.
Yeah. Especially nowadays.
Yeah.
With the internet. Like you can pull from anywhere and anything, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say like do something that feels authentically true to you instead of trying to, you know, please other people with your art.
Yeah. You do them a disservice
Yeah.
if you do that. I was listening to a Rick Rubin podcast.
Oh, I love Rick Rubin.
He's the man, dude.
Living legend.
I have that book that he just put out, and he was talking about how your taste is the only thing that really matters in your creative process. Because if you start thinking about other people and what they might like, it's like the audience doesn't know what they want. They don't know.
That's true.
Until they get it. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I do want that. They might think they know what they want. Like, I might think I don't really understand Beck. And then last night, finally, I'm like, oh, now I get it, dude. Yeah, so you don't know it. Like, and you won't know immediately either all the time. So just follow what that taste is and trust that, like you said, if you like it and it works for you, and you can stand by it. That's all that really matters, because people either will or won't come around to it, but your opinion of it should be that you really enjoy it.
Yeah. And there's just so much like formula music out there. Now we're getting into like the age of AI. It's kind of blurring the lines. You know, you can go plug in a lyric or a stanza into a Google program and it generates the rest of the song for you. And that's kind of scary to me.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about that.
Yeah, it's kind of frightening, because if a computer made it, it raises the question: is it art? Is art exclusively human?
Right.
You know?
Oh shit.
Because somebody created the program, and that in itself is an art. But it just raises a lot of questions. But I think that I would say art is exclusively human.
At least
What about the elephants, man?
that's
What
a good
about-
point.
what about the
You see
elephants
those
that can
videos?
paint?
Yeah.
What about the monkeys that can paint?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
And isn't art like
Is it exclusively animal based?
you're raising a lot of good points.
We're gonna go down a rabbit hole here.
I know, dude.
I'm happy to go down a rabbit hole.
I'm all about rabbit holes. I mean, you think about how art is almost like money in the sense where, or at least maybe money nowadays, where everybody just happens to agree how much something is worth. And it's like art is like, I mean, how many times do you go to a contemporary art museum and you see like a puddle on the floor and somebody puts a plaque on it and they're like, that's, $3 million. You're like, who the hell says that? Well, people do. And it's like, it's really up to you how much you think it's worth. So if a computer creates it and people decide that's worth it, is it really? I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess
so
it is
abstract.
super subjective, and it does raise a lot of questions. I mean, think about when you go somewhere and you see in the bathroom, it's like some art piece, and you're just sitting there, you're peeing, and you look up and you're like, oh, that's pretty. Oh my gosh, $500,000. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people they could put their price on it,
Right.
And maybe there's that person that's like, they're peeing and they're like, I'm going to buy that. Hey, somebody, I need this in my house right now. Like, I don't know. But there's so many people
Where'd
that are
you
just
get
gonna
that?
walk
Oh, I
by.
spent $500 at the coffee shop for it.
Right, exactly. I don't know. It's super subjective. There's so much that people are paying for that I wouldn't pay for.
Totally.
There's some things that I would pay for that a lot of people won't pay for.
Yeah, there's a lot of art or musicians that I think are super underrated that just, like I've been on a big Nutri-Milk Hotel kick. And I understand that's like weird, quirky music. It's not for everybody. I fucking love it. But they're one of those bands that I think is they're really important. But were they ever like financially rewarded for how important they are? Mm-hmm. Probably not.
Right.
You know?
That's another album. I'm like, I know people love this. I need to listen to it and enjoy it. And I hear some of it. I'm like, it's cool. And I never finish the album. Like I never give it. It doesn't hit me the way it clearly hits so many other people. But maybe one day it will.
I was listening to that album on the way over here, and it's got that song "Two-Headed Boy" on there.
Yeah.
And he's singing about a two-headed boy in a glass jar. God. And he's tapping against the glass.
Oh shit.
And then the singer's point of view is like, I'm listening to hear where you are. He's like listening for this faraway glass tap of a little tiny person in a jar. It's like super surreal. It's almost like a Salvador Dali painting or something.
Whoa.
But like that's where a lot of his lyrics come from, is like this dream state of just, stream of consciousness writing. Kind of like weird. In a beat sense. A lot of his lyrics are very surreal like that.
Huh.
They paint a weird picture. They're not necessarily super relatable, but like that image of a two-headed boy in a glass jar, like tapping against the glass, like it's kind of eerie, it creates a mood. Eerie.
Jesus. Yeah.
It's like it's like a Far Side comic in a way. I love Far Side.
I've got a Far Side t-shirt in my closet over there. Far Side rules.
They're so bizarre. I love that shit.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, it's probably nightmare fuel, but the good nightmares where you wake up and you're like, that was scary, but it was awesome.
Yeah, you're like, that was sick. I got to write that down. It is cool getting inspiration from dreams, or you wake up and suddenly there's a melody and you're like, I got to groggily do this in my voice recording so I don't forget it. And then sometimes you wake up the next morning, you're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. You wake up, you think it's awesome. And
right.
You're recording it. You're like, I got this sick line.
It's like so out of tune. There's barely a melody. And you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, I had it in my head, I swear.
It was there.
Cool. Well, are you guys ready to go to the last 5 here?
Yeah, what are the last 5?
Sweet. So I used to just write them down and ask the same 5. But now I'm like leaving it up to the universe. So I got a bowl here of a bunch of different questions. Yeah. So you can basically just pull out one at a time.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, and we'll leave it here. So number 1.
Ooh, fantasy supergroup.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man.
We can do trio or like 4 people, but we don't need to do like, auxiliary percussion and things like that.
I can't create my own big band?
Maybe for the next one.
Oh, Lord. My answer for this question has always changed. So let's see where I'm at today.
Yeah, what's yours? Let's go with the trio.
Yeah, we'll keep it simple.
Lord,
it's tough because
I'm just trying to start with the
you
drummer.
You got to start thinking about a genre, even.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be rock.
Rock.
It's gonna be rock and roll.
Yeah. So if we start with drummer, what are we thinking?
Yikes.
This is a tough one. This hasn't been asked on the podcast yet.
All right, I'm just gonna take a gander here, and this one's not gonna include a drummer. It's gonna be like a folk, traveling Wilburys style thing.
Nice.
We're gonna go Tom York.
Sick.
We're gonna put Jeff Tweedy in there.
Even better. Let's go. What a combo right there.
Yeah.
Already.
That's a combo.
All right, and then we're gonna stick Jeff Mangum.
Who is he? What is he?
Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, I know that name. Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's just going to be a weird, folky little
sick
surrealism project.
Yeah. Maybe some weird soundscapes.
Yeah.
In there.
There's probably half the album's probably instrumental.
Yeah. Yes. That sounds ideal to me.
I'm going to go with Neil Peart, Geddy Lee, and Alex. Whatever his name is.
Lifeson.
Yes.
Just creating Rush.
Yes.
Why not, dude?
No, actually, I want to be real about this. I I'm gonna put Sting at my bass player
Okay.
and singer.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put John Fishman as the drummer from Fish,
Okay.
and then I don't know, for guitar.
Maybe like
There's just way too many guitar players out there.
Yeah.
Man. I'm gonna put Morgan.
nice.
Let's see what you can do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could play with those guys.
I was for some reason thinking of the guitarist from Mars Volta. I can't remember his name right now.
I don't know.
Not Omar. I think that's the singer. Did you guys ever listen to Mars Volta?
A little bit.
Wild.
May have heard.
Crazy, dude. I went through a huge Mars Volta phase in like 2016. And insane music.
Oh yeah. Rob,
Question
you want
number
to pull
2.
I do want to pull one. Musical hot take.
Got any hot takes? You gonna take some shots at anybody?
Ooh, we don't take shots.
No, we don't drink at all. No. We're very much a sober band.
Straight edge. Just for the record.
Straight edge core.
Straight edge core.
Besides drinking and smoking, but by the grace of God, I am sober.
Hot take. Well, John Mayer's best record is Live in LA.
Interesting.
Is that a hot take?
Which one is that though?
I don't know.
Is that the
trio?
The double, the trio.
Oh wait, are you talking about just the trio album or the one where it's like 3 sets?
It's 2 discs.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
It's like 3 sets.
There's
He's
some
got the
Jimi
acoustic,
Hendrix on there. They do
the
it.
trio,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then
Dude, that album
full
rules.
It's got In Your Atmosphere.
The first 6 songs are like solo, and then it's the trio, and then it's the full band.
Dude, I
shit
love
rules.
that trio, bro. I really
What's that
do.
drummer's name? He's just got
Steve
such
Jordan.
a good feel
Steve
to him.
Jordan. Yeah.
I
And
just
he's a
saw Pino
producer.
Palladino.
He's just an overall crazy talented guy.
Yeah, unreal.
It's ridiculous.
For a second, I thought you were gonna be like John Mayer's overrated. I was like, that's too hot.
No. Honestly, like I play really heavy music now, but John Mayer was like one of the reasons I picked up guitar.
Yeah, he's insane. He's I mean, the fact that he has a voice like that, can play guitar like that, can write songs the way he writes songs, it's insane.
And can get the girls.
And well, yeah. He's had some trouble with that in the past, but
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So, what about you, Robert? You got a
Musical hot take. I'm not exactly sure how to word this properly, but I think that even though we have the entire computer at our disposal in the studio, I'm kind of over all the overproduction. There's a lot of good shit out there, man. And this isn't even.
You
a
mean
hot
all the
take,
auto
but, like,
tune and the.
just like I wish it was a little bit more stripped down, because I know there's some phenomenal like singers, there's phenomenal talent, but they don't even get to showcase their stuff. It's basically AI programming with the I don't know.
That's why we
I
play
just
rock
get
and roll, brother.
super fucking upset about it. But I'll go listen to some Ariana. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on the fence about that one. But I'm so over the auto tune, man.
Pop is overproduced.
Yeah, dude.
You heard it here.
I mean, we know that. That's not a hot take, but that's just my biggest qualm right now with the music industry.
Gotcha.
Is that people like us don't get listened to because everybody just wants to hear a 3-minute, computer generated song. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, made for TikTok. We're living in that generation.
You guys should do one of those dances.
We honestly, that would be hilarious.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm fundamentally against doing that.
You're like at my very core. It would shake me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Future Robert might come around and have a better hot take.
Yeah.
As opposed to getting so frustrated
Yeah.
over something so menial.
All right, a dream 3-band bill. Oh, that's a good one.
I think Lighthearted gave me that idea to write that one. Shout out to them.
I'm gonna go Jeff Sipe Trio, Rush, and what's another one? Probably James Taylor or something like that.
Yeah.
Or just keep it all super different.
Yeah. I don't know that first one.
Jeff Sipe Trio.
Yeah.
Jeff Sipe was the drummer for Aquarian Rescue Unit. He is ridiculous, bro.
Okay.
He's insane.
Aquarian Rescue Unit.
Yeah.
It's a great band name.
It was Jimi Herring's first band.
Jimi Hendrix's first band.
No, Jimi Herring.
Oh.
The guy who
I was like, whoa.
Widespread Panic. No.
Okay.
It's very different from Panic.
Yeah.
In a way, which is funny. But he is ridiculous.
Nice. Solid 3. What about you, Morgan?
I'm going to put Modest Mouse on there.
Yeah.
Built to Spill. And The Strokes.
Nice. Built to Spill is another band I need to get into. I know one song, and I really like that one song, but
They're
nothing
great.
else.
I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah. I love, what's Carry the Zero?
Yeah.
I like that song a lot, but I don't know anything else by them. I just
Got some good stuff.
Carry the Zero.
Yeah.
Going Against Your Mind is one of my favorites.
That's
Cool.
a cool. That's a cool title.
Carry the Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool little idea
Yeah.
mathematically.
Now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, it is. I never really thought about it. All right, number 4. Let's see what we got.
Biggest musical hot take.
Oh wait, didn't we just say that?
Did it end up back in there?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe I got 2 in there.
Let's see what we got. 2 artists you want to see collab. I'm not sure. I'll let you take this one first.
Well, this one is impossible, but I would love to see Michael Stipe and Kurt Cobain follow through on that project they were talking about before Kurt died.
Oh, they were talking about doing something?
Yeah, they were writing letters back and forth, and Kurt was thinking about quitting Nirvana and moving to Athens to work with Michael Stipe.
Whoa.
Yeah, that would have been pretty fucking rad.
That would have been insane.
I
What
can't
a
think of one
fanfic.
better than that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but now that I do, that's fucking awesome.
That would be really interesting. REM took me forever to really get into. And even now, I still feel like I don't appreciate them the way everyone else does. Like, Murmur came out 40 years ago yesterday. So I was like, let me listen to that again. And I really do love that one. That was the one that got me into them. That was like, we were talking about, where do I start? I started with the most popular. I was like, it's fine. I started with like the newest one or whatever, and I didn't really get it. And then started with the first one. And I was like, oh, this is one that makes sense.
Yeah, Murmur's incredible.
Yeah. And I get why they're so huge for Athens. I mean, they're huge for the world.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see how many bands I love and artists I love really looked to REM, for example.
Oh,
like
Tom York is a huge fan of REM.
Yeah, he would say Michael Stipe was like literally his mentor, like to help him get through recording and get through touring and like keep him sane, which is crazy. Like I always thought that was cool, but now that I'm really listening to REM, I'm like, man, these guys, it is interesting that this inspired so much.
Yeah. Maybe you listen to Automatic for the People?
That's one I've tried to listen to and just haven't gotten all the way through, but
Gotcha.
I know the hits on it. Is Night Swimming on that one?
I think so.
Yeah, Night Swimming is great. Sidewinder, maybe, or maybe that's on Document. I can't remember which ones are on which.
Yeah.
But Automatic for the People is definitely the coolest album cover of theirs, in my opinion.
Should we move on to
good
number
answer.
5?
Last one. Let's do it.
Let's see what we got here. best and worst decade of music.
Nice.
I've got some strong opinions on this.
Let's
one.
go. Throw them out there.
You want to take this one first?
Because Morgan's about to scorch earth right now.
All right. I would say that the 80s were a wasteland. There was some really good, like,
the 80s,
underground, like, early alternative music that came out of the 80s. But other than that, like, hair metal is... and
Yeah. I'm on your side on that.
yeah,
one.
the 80s was a wasteland. I would say that the 60s completely changed the game for all of rock and roll. And folk music. I think there was just something in the water in the 60s that you had Bob Dylan, you had
acid was in the water.
Yeah, the Beatles, the Stones, all these cats that were just like completely changing the game that it could never be replicated.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely my best for sure, the 60s. But the worst, see, I grew up on the 80s music, so
like the
I
80s.
love that shit.
I knew you would disagree with that one.
We could fight about it, and we have. But I don't know. As of right now, I think the current worst decade was like the 2010s.
Damn, dude, that hurts me. I love the 2010s. That's when I got into music.
Look,
though.
I love
Like,
a lot
really
of that
got
stuff, but it's worse than the stuff that came before it, in my opinion.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, it is your opinion.
There has to be a worse.
Your opinion is valid, but it's
You're
wrong.
entitled to your own wrong opinion.
That's totally fine, dude. Yeah.
I agree. The 2010s are great. I agree. I'm going to side with Parker on this.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah. Like garage rock revival of the, yeah.
True. It is, I mean, it's so funny, dude. Asking this question is hilarious because
It's polarizing.
it's polarizing, and it's also like so
polarizing.
silly because I do have a few like albums from the 80s that are favorites, but it's like the reality is when you think 80s, I'm not thinking of
Overall,
that. I'm not thinking like that one Elvis Costello album. I'm thinking about Def Leppard. I'm thinking about Tears for Fears, which is a great one. But other than Tears for Fears, like I can't think of any huge 80s bands that are essentially 80s that I like.
For sure.
It's all Whitesnake.
And
you know?
Poison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't do it. I love the Replacements. Damn,
True.
I love the
That was-
Replacements, but they were like an underground band that never had a radio hit, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's funny how they got popular later.
Yeah.
Like they weren't popular in the 80s. I don't think. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm talking about with them.
They were pretty, they never really broke through.
Gotcha.
They were very underrated for their time,
Yeah.
but hugely important to later bands.
Right. It's funny. Jameson Tank said the exact opposite of you. He was like, 80s is the best, 60s is the worst. I was like, dog, you're going to get the people riled up with an answer like that.
That's true. Well, okay, is the question like the worst, or is it your least favorite?
Yeah, it's all
Because-
subjective.
I like to say the worst just to like get people fired
That
up.
makes sense.
But it is essentially,
Objectively, the 80s was the worst.
Right.
And there's no disagreeing there.
yes. Yeah, it is fact. It's written in stone.
I just never got into all that stuff that, I mean, how old were you when, I mean, and you're only a few years older than me, but when I was, you know, during the 2010s, I was 16,
Yeah.
you know, 14, 15,
When I think
16,
2010s, I
like-
think of my high school and early, like, after high school years.
Oh yeah, all the indie rock that came out when we were in high school, Foster the People.
Dude, oh,
see, I never got
Boston
into
People
all
had a
that stuff.
chokehold on me. I
Never
love
got
that
into
album.
all that stuff until
Crazy.
afterwards.
Tame Impala.
Yeah, Tame
Like-
Impala. That's interesting.
Because I didn't want to be like everybody else.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you wanted to listen
it
to older
all
stuff.
ties back to like old Robert being like, no, old music is the best music.
Yeah, right.
Like I play drums, like I play old school rock and roll, that kind
Yeah.
of shit. And like,
yeah.
I don't know, because I loved the 90s and early 2000s stuff way better than I liked all the 2010 stuff that was coming out.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny. Now I'm getting into the 90s. Like, I feel like I never really had a 90s phase. Maybe at one point in high school, but now I'm starting to really search for stuff in the 90s that I never listened to. I never listened to Hole, and now I'm listening
Hole's
to
great.
Dude, Hole is crazy.
Hole is crazy.
Like, I feel like
we love Courtney Love.
Dude, she's wild. I watched a live show of hers, of Hole, like the other day. Not the whole thing, but some of it. It was just like, oh my God, like
Grunge Queen,
dude. She crushes, and they sound insane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know.
Have you done a deep dive on the Pixies?
Yeah, dude, that's the one that
love the
really
Pixies.
got me.
Pixies is maybe, here's another hot take, maybe the most influential band that came out of like the late 80s into the 90s.
Yeah.
I think without the Pixies, like grunge might not have been what it was.
Right. Yeah.
Because they started that.
That like soft, loud situation. Yeah. I really got into the Pixies. I mean, you came to the show the other day where we cover Here Comes Your Man.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
That song.
What was the one you were talking about that you wanted to cover that was more of a deep cut?
Broken Face.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I could certainly do it. It's just way more punk rock. And I just want to like, I just want to get on the floor and like scream that song because that song rules.
I say go for it.
Yeah.
Dude,
maybe the next one.
I know you're the interviewer, but I got a question for you.
Let's do it.
What is the genre that you really love that you just don't see yourself doing?
That's a great question. I'll have to use that for one of these last 5 ones. I don't know. I don't know if it's quite a genre, but I think it's interesting that my favorite band probably of all time is Radiohead. And I feel like nothing I make, even intentionally or unintentionally, really sounds like them. But that might just be more of a testament to how unique they are and how amazing they are.
That's true.
I don't know if many people could without feeling like they're straight up copying them. Like, I don't know.
Interesting.
So not exactly a genre, but I do feel like Radiohead is my favorite band. And
Radiohead is their own genre.
Kind of.
Yeah.
The way they blend so many sounds, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. I think, though, if I really had to say genre, like, it'd be easy to say hip hop because I just never could see myself rapping, but I do love like the rhythm and the beats from hip hop. So that might be closer. So maybe like jazz, like real good jazz, like I think is cool to listen to, but it'd be hard for me to ever like traverse that plane because I feel like it's so theory based and I'm not like very knowledgeable in all of that. I know enough, but enough, I know some, but when it comes to any of that crazy, like I'd love to play jazz piano.
That would be so awesome.
That would be sick.
Just to like really know what you're doing. I have no idea. I know like majors and minors and that's about it.
Sevenths.
That's true. You throw a seventh in there, people think you're really good.
Exactly.
They're like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm like, I put my pinky on like one extra key and that was it. But hey, that's a great question. I'm going to add that. Ancient Infant. That's our time here.
Dude,
on
we
that
really
note.
appreciate you having us.
This was really fun.
I'm glad we can make this happen before you go to Texas. I really appreciate y'all coming in early in the morning and banging
thanks
out
for the
this
coffee.
interview. Dude, of course.
Yeah, dude.
I'm wired now.
It's a necessity, and I'm probably going to get some more after this. But yeah, Morgan, Robert, thank you again. I'll see you guys at the 40 Watt show tonight.
Yeah, and shout out to Alan and Asada. They couldn't make it today, but yeah.
Yeah, shout out to the boys. One day I'll have 4 microphones and enough space to do a whole band. But today is not that day.
Well, we appreciate you, Parker.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. See ya.
See ya.
In her dreams, she's making promises out loud and asking, have you heard that?
Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.